Thank you, Amit, for joining us
Pleasure.
for this wonderful session. So we'll be talking about, how future-proofing 5G networks for an AI-driven world. Everyone is talking about AI and 5G. So what's your initial, thoughts on this?
No, I had lots of thoughts, but then I heard all these stalwarts here, and we just heard the Bhisham Pitama of the industry, Jagveer ji, who just left, right? Who kind of shaped it for you. And then there was Randeep, who gave us a glimpse of the future, and Sham, and I know Ayush is to follow, who's going to give you a totally different dimension, and Tarun, my friend, who thankfully called Ciena out as well, and mentioned a lot of shape of things to come. But let me give you my spiel, actually. I thought, let me also get my crystal ball out and see how do I see things. And we were all together at MWC Barcelona. So a lot of new things which we heard over there as well. Thankfully, there was very little talk about 6G this year. There was more about 5G and AI. Everybody said the word AI. Now that's super, super interesting. I heard Randeep speak about, all those glasses, fancy things that will happen. But that was all about content generation and probably research. The beauty is yet to come. And that is the part of decision making, right? We've been talking about Industry 4.0 and suddenly Industry 5.0 came up. We said we are going to move from eco-centricity to human centricity. We even heard machines and humans are going to coexist. And this is something that we were hearing before I went to Barcelona. And what I saw in Barcelona, I said, my God, this is actually becoming real. We saw humanoids there. You remember, we saw humanoids being displayed there. We saw futuristic communication. We saw devices that will make decisions for us. Things like what Randeep mentioned, if you have glasses and you see a building and it'll tell you what building it is, and if it's a museum, it can also go and buy you a ticket based on your interest. That is the decision-making part. I was reading a very interesting report by Morgan Stanley the other day. They said, you know what, thanks to agentic AI, today we've started using more and more of that so that the time that our investment advisors spend with our customers should be maximized. And that's what the entire industry is trying to do. And thanks to that, our revenue has gone up 14%. It's a giant, and 14% revenue increase it's not mean at all. It's fantastic. Where does the next gen networks come in here, right? Now, the beauty is AI is all about data centers. That's what everybody said. They said AI, if you spoke about AI, they said everything inside the data center, that's where AI happens. But that's not true. AI is spilling out of the data centers. And not only spilling out in a way that it is within data centers, it's going miles across subseas. Most of the training modules are situated most of them are in North America. So a lot of data has to travel through subseas. And a very important thing which I'm seeing today, and I'll talk about one more trend because I know it's getting a little long, but and I don't want to bore people for sure. Yeah. So what we are seeing is AI today has, while it is heavily dependent on data center, there is a very important element that is coming, which is going to be very crucial to drive AI, which is the network. Because today, data center is not just about space and power. It's about space, power, and network. That's a big shift that we've seen. And while we thought we've seen it all, there is a new animal that's coming up, which is quantum computing. And we thought it's going to take years. But with the recent announcements from Google, Microsoft, it's just a few years away. What does it do? If quantum computers are able to do what they're talking about, till some time ago, Google said quantum computers will do what it takes normally a normal computer 10,000 years can be done in minutes. But the latest stuff which they just publicized, they're saying what would have taken septillion years is being done in minutes. That's a game changer. Now again, what does it do? If quantum computer exists, believe me, most of the security that we have thought of right now is getting challenged. We heard Randeep talk about how your camera can actually be, or any IoT device can actually be a threat because of security. But with quantum computers, the entire networks, all the optical networks that we've laid is also becoming a threat. And that is why organizations like us, we are making that big, bold step on quantum encryption. So from a trend perspective, let me just summarize. Definitely AI is something that we see. We see quantum playing a big role, and we see the data centers evolving, and we see networks evolving at a much faster pace. You heard me talk about this earlier, that we are moving into an era where AI will be built for networks and networks will be built for AI.
But is the data center industry ready for this kind of transformation, or what are the challenges you seeing from their aspect?
So from a data center industry per se, as I said, for a very long time, they only assumed that it's just about space and power. So they went for the place where they had the cheapest space and the cheapest power, and they thought the work is done. But this time, when we were in Hawaii at PTC in Jan, I think, and even last year, the big theme was, I have space, I have power, but I mean the lowest space, I mean lowest cost of space, lowest cost of power, but where is the network? Because none of the networks were built for AI. We're talking about all the data rise, right? A lot of people spoke about how the data is rising. We've spoken to some of the service providers. Some are saying in 2 years, my data capacity is going to grow 4x. Everybody is talking about upwards of 40% growth. Now, if the data keeps growing like that, and if data centers suddenly shift to GPUs, which require a huge amount of capacity, where are the right networks? So today, that is what the data center industry is grappling with, and that is why you see a lot of this motions being driven by the hyperscalers.
But is there any specific use case right now AI driven for the data centers, or it's just like the start of,
AI use case for the, I mean, so
or
it
it's
is,
too early to talk about
yeah,
use
it's
case?
probably just the beginning, but whatever little crystal ball that I said I've taken out, uh, I think this thing will expand way too faster. We are already seeing that because a typical rack in a conventional data center used to be a few kilowatts. It's straight away multiplied by 10x now in the AI world. Now, if you have to have that much of power and that much of capacity, I think you're going to see a significant amount of disruption coming in that industry.
So let's also talk about a little bit on 5G. How do you see 5G and AI going together? The industry is not yet able to monetize 5G. Do you think now
Yeah.
with the upcoming of AI, things would change, and with this IoT and edge computing, the whole dynamics will change?
We did hear a bit from Jagbir around that, right? How that they're complementing each other. And I think he's absolutely right. Because today, a big driver of AI, as I said, is going to be the network, and 5G becomes a significant enabler for that. Because a lot of these use cases are all real time, right? Simplest use cases we were talking about the other day. I was being called for a smart city discussion because that's an area I used to be a thought leader earlier. I used to that was one of my passions, and they said, you know what, how are things going to pan out? Because today they're talking about cameras who will be able to take real time decisions. The camera takes the decision, but once you start doing all of this automation at the edge and decision making at the edge, that means you'll have to keep on having better networks which are low latency, really fast, and that's where 5G comes into play. And that's why I believe that 5G use cases will get enabled by AI. It's going to be a circle, right? AI enables 5G, 5G enables AI.
Okay, okay. But how soon do you think enterprises can start leveraging these benefits of 5G, and what role does Ciena has to play in this whole ecosystem?
Now, that's again $1 million question, and that's what I think everybody is grappling with, right? When does the industry really adopt? But whether they adopt 5G or not, they're definitely adopting AI. I mean, I was stunned at I don't know, you also published that report in part, the BCG report, which said that we are already, as of last year, spending $10 billion on AI in industry. Industry spending $10 billion on AI in India. Now, that was an eye opener for me. That's huge. And it's expected to be $50 billion by 2030. I mean, I knew AI is getting adopted, but $10 billion is an industry that seemed investment. I thought that was fantastic. So if that starts coming up, and as I said, AI start driving some of these use cases, I believe there'll be more 5G monetization coming going forward.
Perfect, perfect. Could you also talk about your vision for the future and the kind of innovation and products you're planning, keeping in mind the demands of the industry?
Yeah, no, sorry. So from our perspective, I think this is what the conversation which we have with all the leading service providers. We said nobody has a crystal ball, but you have some certain data to see how the traffic is growing. We're doing these traffic modeling exercises with everybody. Because it's not easy, everybody's saying traffic goes up like crazy. Everybody's saying 40% growth every year, for example. And if you see some of the reports like Gomdia, which says it'll be 40%, but after 27, it's like a hockey stick, it just goes up exponentially. Now, in a world like this, how do you plan your networks? I mean, I would hate to be in the shoes of Randeep, Sham, or Jagbir, because it's so difficult to plan, right? Because the traffic, your modeling is telling you the traffic is going to go up significantly. And that is where some bit of our role comes in as well. Twofolds. One is helping them understand how can we build more adaptive networks. And also, most of the networks in this country, or by and large, which were never built with these applications in mind. They were built for mobility. They were never built for even enterprise and AI use cases. So that is an area where we are working very closely with the industry on shaping our knowledge, on sharing our knowledge on how should they differentiate these networks. And that is not just about the service providers. Even from a data center perspective or the cloud perspective, the way the cloud was thought of earlier and the way the AI cloud is being thought of, there is a huge difference. The network, the way it is designed for AI cloud versions are very different. That's where, again, we share some of our experience. I don't want to get into technicalities of all of that, but I'm just saying that we have a significant role to play. And the third role where we owe it to the industry, being in forefront of technology, is how do we ourselves adopt AI? And today, every offering that we have, AI is an inherent part of that offering, especially on the management stuff that we do. We have very strong AI assisted in our Navigator portfolio. Our Navigator, as it is, was an industry-leading portfolio, but with AI Assist, today most customers can proactively realize what is going to be the problem in their network. And the system itself decides what could be the best way to do it. There are empirical formulas which are saying that this frees anywhere between 15 to 25% of bandwidth of people. Could be more as we keep evolving. Now, again, going back to the Morgan Stanley example, if freeing that bandwidth gives you 14% more revenue, and I think even Randeep mentioned something like this, that if we can have more bandwidth, he spoke about an example on base stations, right? If things could do things on, if AI could help things happen automatically, just imagine the kind of bandwidth that it frees up. So this is an area where we're working on, and this is the area where we work very closely with the service providers and the hyperscalers.
Lastly, Ciena is a global player. So if you could elaborate on a bit of kind of global experiences, or maybe the trends you are seeing globally on 5G and AI part, or is it again too early to talk about it?
No, I think we spoke about some of the trends, but I think the biggest trend, and I think that we see, which is going to be an enabler of a lot of things that we do, is this whole move towards Industry 5.0. And this is where we saw early glimpse at Mobile World Congress as well, right? Where when we say the future is where machines and humans will coexist, where your coworker could be a machine or an AI. And we thought that was still very futuristic, right? We just read about it a year ago, maybe, when people started, it started in, say, about 2020, the initial thought process around Industry 5.0. But very recently, things were saying that it'll become real. But now there are organizations, I read another very interesting article the other day, where a person was interviewed by an AI and the offer letter was given by the AI. This is mind-blowing. So we see the AI driving all these trends significantly. On the 5G monetization, you've heard from everybody, there is still no killer use case. FWA still keeps driving. But on the AI use cases, today there are significant use cases on healthcare, on travel. Healthcare, there are fantastic use cases on how organizations today are doing the entire analysis of entire population, and proactively they can tell what are the problems that are going to happen to people. They can actually create an entire sheet on what could potentially go wrong with XYZ, which helps them do proactive healthcare, which saves trillions of dollars on healthcare. So these are fantastic case studies which are happening, and I think the way the new AI organizations are mushrooming, I think it's just a matter of time before we see a totally new world emerging.
Great, great. Thank you so much. If you'd like to just sum up your session.
No, firstly, thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. And I said, following such stalwarts is never easy. But I hope I've been able to summarize my thought process well, because a lot of case studies that I thought of, and I'm going to be talking about use cases, were already talked about. So I had to pull up yet another crystal ball, as I said, and see into the future. But net, I think depending upon who you ask, either people will say AI means dooms or doomsday for all of us, or they'll say AI will really change the world. But I'm one of the optimists who believes AI will definitely coexist. I mean, as kids, when we grew up, we used to read comics about all these robots coming into the house and changing things, and we get so excited, and we wanted those days. But today, when we are being told about things becoming real, we get scared. So I don't think it's to be scared of. The future, I think, is going to be very interesting, and it's going to be interesting for people in this industry. And I'm really bullish about my industry and about things that we do, because all AI that we talk about, the driver is definitely going to be the network, which is going to be foundational. Yeah. Thank you so
Perfect,
much.
perfect. Thank you so much for